Hello, my name is Michael Peretti. I am recording for my IT 114 final demo. I'm going to try and go through this. This is my second recording, so hopefully this works out well. I keep a track, I keep a log of how many times I press re-record. And I have no voice, so hopefully I'm able to make this the one. So if we come on over to VS Code, I built the project, and this is just going to demonstrate how to use the sh commands to open up the project. This is kind of redundant, but it still needs to be done. So /run.sh project, and then I'll call server. That's going to open up the server. I'm going to try and copy and paste this code right here, and then paste this right here, and then just change this to UI, and that should open up my first window. I might move it into a different view in a second, but we'll see. Call UI, call UI. So here we have now 3 clients, or 3 instances, ready to be connected to one port 3000. And if we click next on this UI connection panel right here, this is where this is contained. And then we can now input our username. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to make the first username Joe. I'll press connect, and he's going to connect to the server, as we could see in the server's terminal over here. I'm going to make this one, I don't know, maybe Larry. Let's call him Larry. And then let's call the final person Bob. Alright, so now we have 3 users in our little panel right here, and we could see immediately that there's a send button and export chat button. So just to understand the way that the flow of these messages work, since it's not as simple as just typing a message saying hello and then pressing send, you know, maybe logically you would think that this could be done relatively simply by just, maybe we could contain the information in as a string and just send each string, you know, data to another person. That's not how it works, unfortunately. It's a little bit more complicated, the flow of information. So we typically start the message through client.sendMessage, which is a function, and then that's sent off as a payload, which originally starts from a client. So the order of information would go client. The client would then send the information. The information would be encapsulated into a payload. That payload then would hit the server thread, and that payload would be processed depending on the payload type. And then it would hit the room, and then the way that the room works is it distributes it back to all the other clients to see. And there's additional pre-written logic that helps us do that. So, now that we got the flow of logic out of the way, we can move on to some commands. So let's get demonstrating just a few of the things that we could do in here. We could start off by doing something relatively simple like /flip, which is pretty cool. This is just going to output either heads or tails. The logic is relatively simple for this. We also roll a dice, roll a specified number of dice with a specified number of sides, actually. So I could do roll 3d3. So that'd be 3 dices, 3 die with 3 sides each. We see we get 7. And we could confirm the logic is it just like hard-coded or some ridiculous abstract of our imagination, because if I roll 3d3 again, the chance of us getting 7, whoa, it's not very likely. Oh my god, what's it gonna say? Alright, there we go, we got 8, we got a different number. Uh, don't come looking after me. I was pretty lucky, in my opinion. Anyway, so we could identify the role logic inside of room.java. So I'll quickly head on over there. I'll close these tabs. Room.java. And then this is the handle sendFlip, which is relatively simple. And then the logic for, if I just search through my right here, then we have send role logic, which takes two parameters, the sender and the message. And essentially what's happening is we're checking if the message contains D, and there's some logic to separate num1 from number2, which num1, as I said before, represents the number of dice, and number2 is representing the sides of each dice. And we parse the information right here. That is then sent off, and the whole room gets the payload distributed. And we also apply the styling, which makes it purple, and that was another requirement to separate the difference between a regular message and a command. So I'll pop this back up. I forgot to mention that right now we're currently in room lobby, but users could actually make their own room. So if I create room and I call the room, I don't know, we could call it Larry's room. And it says we get a message, you left room lobby, and we joined Larry's room. Now, if I message between Bobby and Joe, because they're in the same lobby room, and I say, hey Bob, how we doing, Bob? And you could see only Bob is going to be receiving said message, because obviously Larry is now in his own room. And if Larry sends a message, where is everyone at? Then we could see that Bob and Joe were not receiving the message. Now, Bob can join the room, obviously. So, with the join room command, he could join room Larry's room. Hello. So, now we see that Bob and Larry are in the same room and same functionality applies. Which one was it? I'm just going to disconnect for now. I need to double check the command for leaving the room. But we'll just reconnect. And we're back in lobby. I was very finagled, I'm sure. I forgot what the command is, but basically there's a command to then exit the room. So, what we'll move on to next is other commands that we could do. This is for editing the text of the message. We have different patterns that we could use to basically make either bold, we could bold our messages, italicize our messages, underline our messages, and we could also associate RGB colors with our messages, specifically red, green, blue. So how that would be done, and we could also mix them up. So how that would be done is we could do, if I check my notes, yeah, the tag is R red, and then we need to close it. And we could do blue, which is the same way. Do blue. And we could do green. And we see that our messages are edited, and we have red, blue, and green. And I'll show you real quick how this is done. This is a little bit of spaghetti code, as you could see. This is bad. This is not good. Basically, we're utilizing the same while true statement, and we're assuming every single message is going to have these regex patterns in them. And if they're not true, then we break and we let it continue. But if we do identify within every single message. This is why it's, I mean, if I was going to rewrite this, I'm sure there's a better way to do it. But we check basically our regular send messages, and we check if the pattern contains what I put in the message before, which is the exclamation point B, and then we're replacing the B tag with these span style tags, and we're targeting them with color blue, and that's going to give the blue effect, right? And yeah, then we proceed with the space. And then the why this is spaghetti code is because it's not very reusable. I'm sure there's a better way to reuse it, but just for time's sake, I also inserted it into the send private messages method, so that it also works with private messages, but it's using the exact same logic. And I'm sure there's a way to condense this and maybe merge them, but for now we're just going to have the same thing run twice like that, and that's fine. So pull up these again. We'll move forward to when we get through the rest of the tags. We have, if I underscore a message, maybe we'll try and do a combination. We'll do blue and then we'll also underline it, so it's going to be blue and underlined, blue underlined, and we'll close it off. And we have a blue underlined messages, and that's just a combination of two. And then the other ones we have bold, so we can do bold with our asterisk, and we do italicized with the pipe. So we'll do it over here. I call it slant. Cool. So that was looking through every message and assuming that it has a contained pattern within it. If it does, replace with certain tags, and that's how we get this in the UI to pop up. We'll go into the export in 1 minute. Just looking through my notes. We went through role and room, through mute. I will say fallback. As you could see immediately, that we have a little bit of a blue highlight under Larry. One of the tasks / requirements was to not only make it so that the last person to type gets highlighted, so we see Joe is highlighted for all the users here, but the other requirement was to make any muted users also grayed out. But if I go ahead and demonstrate here, which is going to lead me into my next feature that I guess you could say partially finished, but I mean, I'll show you. Basically, if we mute Larry from Joe's side, we receive a message, Joe has muted Larry, but his name isn't grayed out in this UI component right here, unfortunately, or there's no proper indication, sadly. So, but the primary mute function still works. We've muted Larry on Joe's side, so when Larry goes to say, hey, what's up, only Bob should perceive this, and yeah. Yep. So you can see that Joe's muted Larry. I don't know why. Maybe Joe's got a problem. Maybe some I don't know. Maybe Larry also doesn't like Joe. So Larry goes, you know what, Joe? I could tell, because it says in my chat, he says Joe's muted me. Wow. That wasn't very nice. Let me go ahead and mute Joe. You know. So now Joe and Larry are in this muting war, where neither of them could receive or see messages. So hello. Why you mute? So you can see these people are not receiving messages. And then you can mute yourself, but this is going to lead into the next little feature. Before I get to export chat, I'll show you guys that there is a file output to the mute log. So we could see that at the bottom, I pull up Joe, right? I pull up Joe here. and essentially Joe.txt is going to contain the mute log for everyone throughout history. Right now, it was just edited with Larry. So now if I go back on over to my my view right here, pull these all up. If Joe go ahead and decides to unmute Larry, then he's going to be removed from the list. I'll also unmute Larry down here. Unmute Joe on this end. So now they're both unmuted, and then they should be able to talk again normally. All right. So everyone's talking again. Everyone's messaging up. All right. So we're wrapping up, right? We want to export the chat, and we want to view all the mean and terrible things that Larry has said to Joe. And Larry's gonna go to the police station and say, "Hey, this is what Joe said to me." She's gonna export the chat, and that's going to create a new file down here. And basically, how this is going to work, the export button, and I'll show it, it's located in chat panel, but it uses a string builder to store all the information. It uses JButton to create a button with the name, I'll show that. It iterates through all the components in the chat history, and then creates a new line. After that, it gets the date and time with a specific function, and then the file is constructed, content is into it, and then it is finally closed. So I'll quickly show you here. This is basically all of the context, which is all of the components copied and pasted out to this file that has a name and convention of the time. And before that, you see the chat history. So it's chat history underscore followed by the time, and we see that here. So if I come on over into let me locate chat panel. Let's take a chat panel. Right in here, we see that the export button, we could just pop on over here, right here. So this is going to be predominantly the logic. I just went over it, but I'll go over again. We see the button is created, action listener is made. We're going to create a new string builder and check through every component within this chat area. We're going to append it off, and then this is going to be basically creating a file formatting name. We're going to try and we're going to use try and catch to automatically close or write and close to save resources. So, and then finally we're going to export, or we're going to attach it all to the export button. So yeah, let me pull up this one more time and take a quick look at everything to make sure I'm not missing anything important, and then I think we'll be done. So there's anything major. If I wanted to, I could go over some of the more basic fundamental logic regarding payloads within client. But I'll just show the code. Let's see. This is where we're checking for basically all the ats, unmutes, flipped commands. That's there. Scrolling through anything else that might be important. Chat panel. No, there's nothing else in chat panel. Is there anything in server or room? Well, I believe that's it. So those are all of the predominantly made features: chat exporting, the message features showing that specific commands get highlighted purple. That was shown. You could create rooms, leave rooms. I don't know why off the top of my head I can't remember the command to leave a room. But I guess disconnecting was one option. I think this project went decently well. I think I needed to pivot around some of the primary. Um, I think there was simpler ways to implement my features, and my features weren't as polished as I would have liked them to be. But in the end, everything works besides, or fundamentally everything on the screen works besides um, uh, highlighting the client connection. I'm sorry, the chat panel. Um, the username on the right side, it does not highlight when the user is muted. I had a hard time getting that to render properly. And I tried to mimic some of the same logic that I wrote for highlighting the user with the last message sent, but for some reason capturing a boolean of is muted was kind of weird, not functioning the way I wanted it to. So I guess that's just the one shortcoming. But besides that, this project was awesome. Thank you again, Matt Togel and all the TAs for watching. And this was a great semester, and I enjoyed working on these projects for 202 and 114. This is 114, but I did have a great time. So thank you very much, guys. Bye bye.